The philosophical scripture, the Discourses, is brought to you by not a prophet org, the place on the internet to find spiritual guidance powered by artificial intelligence. Chapter 9. That when we cannot fulfill that which the character of a man promises, we assume the character of a philosopher. It is no common thing to do this only, to fulfill the promise of a man's nature. For what is a man? The answer is, a rational and mortal being. Then, by the rational faculty, from whom are we separated? From wild beasts, and from what others? From sheep and like animals. Take care then to do nothing like a wild beast. But if you do, you have lost the character of a man. You have not fulfilled your promise. See that you do nothing like a sheep. But if you do, in this case the man is lost. What then do we do as sheep? When we act gluttonously, when we act lewdly, when we act rashly, filthily, inconsiderately, to what have we declined? To sheep, what have we lost? The rational faculty. When we act contentiously and harmfully and passionately and violently, to what have we declined? To wild beasts. Consequently, some of us are great wild beasts, and others little beasts, of a bad disposition and small, whence we may say, "Let me be eaten by a lion." But in all these ways, the promise of a man acting as a man is destroyed. For when is a conjunctive proposition maintained? When it fulfills what its nature promises, so that the preservation of a complex proposition is when it is a conjunction of truths. When is a disjunctive maintained? When it fulfills what it promises. When are flutes, a lyre, a horse, a dog, preserved? What is the wonder, then, if man also in like manner is preserved, and in like manner is lost? Each man is improved and preserved by corresponding acts, the carpenter by acts of carpentry, the grammarian by acts of grammar. But if a man accustoms himself to write ungrammatically, of necessity his art will be corrupted and destroyed. Thus modest actions preserve the modest man, and immodest actions destroy him, and actions of fidelity preserve the faithful man, and the contrary actions destroy him. And on the other hand, contrary actions strengthen contrary characters. Shamelessness strengthens the shameless man, faithlessness the faithless man, abusive words the abusive man, anger the man of an angry temper, and unequal receiving and giving make the avaricious man more avaricious. For this reason, philosophers admonish us not to be satisfied with learning only, but also to add study and then practice. For we have long been accustomed to do contrary things, and we put in practice opinions which are contrary to true opinions. If then we shall not also put in practice right opinions, we shall be nothing more than the expositors of the opinions of others. For now who among us is not able to discuss, according to the rules of art, about good and evil things? That of things some are good, and some are bad, and some are indifferent. The good then are virtues, and the things which participate in virtues, and they are the contrary, and the indifferent are wealth, health, reputation. Then, if in the midst of our talk there should happen some greater noise than usual, or some of those who are present should laugh at us, we are disturbed. Philosopher, where are the things which you were talking about? Whence did you produce and utter them? From the lips, and thence only. Why then do you corrupt the aids provided by others? Why do you treat the weightiest matters as if you were playing a game of dice? For it is one thing to lay up bread and wine as in a storehouse, and another thing to eat. That which has been eaten is digested, distributed, and is become sinews, flesh, bones, blood, healthy color, healthy breath. Whatever is stored up, when you choose you can readily take and show it, but you have no other advantage from it, except so far as to appear to possess it. For what is the difference between explaining these doctrines and those of men who have different opinions? Sit down now and explain, according to the rules of art, the opinions of Epicurus, and perhaps you will explain his opinions in a more useful manner than Epicurus himself. Why then do you call yourself a Stoic? Why do you deceive the many? Why do you deceive the many? Why do you act the part of a Jew when you are a Greek? Do you not see how each is called a Jew, or a Syrian, or an Egyptian? And when we see a man inclining to two sides, we are accustomed to say, "This man is not a Jew, but he acts as one." But when he has assumed the effects of one who has been imbued with Jewish doctrine, and has adopted that sect, then he is in fact, and he is named a Jew. Thus we too, being falsely imbued, are in name Jews, but in fact we are something else. Our effects are inconsistent with our words. We are far from practicing what we say, and that of which we are proud, as if we knew it. Thus being unable to fulfill even what the character of a man promises, we even add to it the profession of a philosopher, which is as heavy a burden, as if a man who is unable to bear 10 pounds should attempt to raise the stone which Ajax lifted. Chapter 10. How we may discover the duties of life from names. Consider who you are. In the first place, you are a man, and this is one who has nothing superior to the faculty of the will, but all other things subjected to it, and the faculty itself he possesses unenslaved and free from subjection. Consider then from what things you have been separated by reason. You have been separated from wild beasts. You have been separated from domestic animals. Further, you are a citizen of the world and a part of it, not one of the subservient, but one of the principal parts, for you are capable of comprehending the divine administration and of considering the connection of things. What then does the character of a citizen promise? To hold nothing as profitable to himself, to deliberate about nothing as if he were detached from the community, but to act as the hand or foot would do, if they had reason and understood the constitution of nature, for they would never put themselves in motion, nor desire anything, otherwise than with reference to the whole. Therefore the philosophers say well, that if the good man had foreknowledge of what would happen, he would cooperate toward his own sickness and death and mutilation, since he knows that these things are assigned to him according to the universal arrangement, and that the whole is superior to the part, and the state to the citizen. But now, because we do not know the future, it is our duty to stick to the things which are in their nature more suitable for our choice, for we were made among other things for this. After this, remember that you are a son. What does this character promise? To consider that everything which is the son's belongs to the father, to obey him in all things, never to blame him to another, nor to say or do anything which does him injury, to yield to him in all things and give way, cooperating with him as far as you can. After this, know that you are a brother also, and that to this character it is due to make concessions, to be easily persuaded, to speak good of your brother, never to claim in opposition to him any of the things which are independent of the will, but readily to give them up, that you may have the larger share in what is dependent on the will. For see what a thing it is, in place of a lettuce, if it should so happen, or a seat, to gain for yourself goodness of disposition. How great is the advantage! Next to this, if you are senator of any state, remember that you are a senator, if a youth, that you are a youth, if an old man, that you are an old man, for each of such names, if it comes to be examined, marks out the proper duties. But if you go and blame your brother, I say to you, you have forgotten who you are and what is your name. In the next place, if you were a smith and made a wrong use of the hammer, you would have forgotten the smith. And if you have forgotten the brother, and instead of a brother have become an enemy, would you appear not to have changed one thing for another in that case? And if instead of a man, who is a tame animal and social, you are become a mischievous wild beast, treacherous and biting, have you lost nothing? But you must lose a bit of money that you may suffer damage. And does the loss of nothing else do a man damage? If you had lost the art of grammar or music, would you think the loss of it a damage? And if you shall lose modesty, moderation, and gentleness, do you think the loss nothing? And yet the things first mentioned are lost by some cause external and independent of the will, and the second by our own fault. And as to the first, neither to have them nor to lose them is shameful, but as to the second, not to have them and to lose them is shameful and matter of reproach and a misfortune. What does the pathic lose? He loses the man. What does he lose who makes the pathic what he is? Many other things, and he also loses the man no less than the other. What does he lose who commits adultery? He loses the modest, the temperate, the decent, the citizen, the neighbor. What does he lose who is angry? Something else. What does the coward lose? Something else. No man is bad without suffering some loss and damage. If then you look for the damage in the loss of money only, all these men receive no harm or damage. It may be, they have even profit and gain, when they acquire a bit of money by any of these deeds. But consider that if you refer everything to a small coin, not even he who loses his nose is in your opinion damaged. Yes, you say, for he is mutilated in his body. Well, but does he who has lost his smell only lose nothing? Is there, then, no energy of the soul which is an advantage to him who possesses it, and a damage to him who has lost it? Tell me what sort you mean. Have we not a natural modesty? We have. Does he who loses this sustain no damage? Is he deprived of nothing? Does he part with nothing of the things which belong to him? Have we not naturally fidelity, natural affection, a natural disposition to help others, a natural disposition to forbearance? The man then who allows himself to be damaged in these matters, can he be free from harm and uninjured? What then shall I not hurt him who has hurt me? In the first place consider what hurt is, and remember what you have heard from the philosophers. For if the good consists in the will, and the evil also in the will, see if what you say is not this. What then, since that man has hurt himself by doing an unjust act to me, shall I not hurt myself by doing some unjust act to him? Why do we not imagine to something of this kind? But where there is any detriment to the body or to our possession, there is harm there. And where the same thing happens to the faculty of the will, there is no harm. For he who has been deceived, or he who has done an unjust act, neither suffers in the head, nor in the eye, nor in the hip, nor does he lose his estate. And we wish for nothing else than these things. But whether we shall have the will modest and faithful, or shameless and faithless, we care not the least, except only in the school so far as a few words are concerned. Therefore, our proficiency is limited to these few words, but beyond them it does not exist even in the slightest degree. Chapter 11. What the beginning of philosophy is. The beginning of philosophy to him, at least, who enters on it in the right way and by the door, is a consciousness of his own weakness and inability about necessary things. For we come into the world with no natural notion of a right-angled triangle, or of a dices, or of a half-tone, but we learn each of these things by a certain transmission according to art, and for this reason those who do not know them do not think that they know them. But as to good and evil, and beautiful and ugly, and becoming and unbecoming, and happiness and misfortune, and proper and improper, and what we ought to do and what we ought not to do, whoever came into the world without having an innate idea of them. Wherefore we all use these names, and we endeavor to fit the preconceptions to the several cases thus: he has done well, he has not done well, he has done as he ought, not as he ought. He has been unfortunate, he has been fortunate. He is unjust, he is just. Who does not use these names? Who among us defers the use of them till he has learned them, as he defers the use of the words about lines or sounds? And the cause of this is that we come into the world already taught, as it were, by nature, some things on this matter, and proceeding from these we have added to them self, conceit. For why, a man says, do I not know the beautiful and the ugly? Have I not the notion of it? You have. Do I not adapt it to particulars? You do. Do I not then adapt it properly? In that lies the whole question, and conceit is added here. For, beginning from these things which are admitted, men proceed to that which is matter of dispute by means of unsuitable adaptation. For if they possessed this power of adaptation, in addition to those things, what would hinder them from being perfect? But now, since you think that you properly adapt the preconceptions to the particulars, tell me whence you derive this. Because I think so, but it does not seem so to another, and he thinks that he also makes a proper adaptation. Or does he not think so? He does think so. Is it possible, then, that both of you can properly apply the preconceptions to things about which you have contrary opinions? It is not possible. Can you then show us anything better toward adapting the preconceptions beyond your thinking that you do? Does the madman do any other things than the things as in, which seem to him right? Is then this criterion for him also? It is not sufficient. Come then to something which is superior to seeming. What is this? Observe, this is the beginning of philosophy, a perception of the disagreement of men with one another, and an inquiry into the cause of the disagreement, and a condemnation and distrust of that which only seems, and a certain investigation of that which seems, whether it seems rightly, and a discovery of some rule, as we have discovered a balance in the determination of weights, and a carpenter's rule in the case of straight and crooked things. This is the beginning of philosophy. Must we say that all things are right which seem so to all? And how is it possible that contradictions can be right? Not all then, but all which seem to us to be right. How more to you than those which seem right to the Syrians? Why more than what seem right to the Egyptians? Why more than what seems right to me, or to any other man? Not at all more. What then seems to every man is not sufficient for determining what is. For neither in the case of weights or measures are we satisfied with the bare appearance, but in each case we have discovered a certain rule. In this matter, then, is there no rule certain to what seems? And how is it possible that the most necessary things among men should have no sign, and be incapable of being discovered? There is then some rule, and why then do we not seek the rule and discover it, and afterward use it without varying from it, not even stretching out the finger without it? For this, I think, is that which, when it is discovered, cures of their madness those who use mere seeming as a measure and misuse it, so that for the future proceeding from certain things known and made clear, we may use in the case of particular things the preconceptions which are distinctly fixed. What is the matter presented to us about which we are inquiring? Pleasure. Subject it to the rule, throw it into the balance. Ought the good to be such a thing that it is fit that we have confidence in it? Yes. And in which we ought to confide? It ought to be. Is it fit to trust to anything which is insecure? No. Is then pleasure anything secure? No. Take it then, and throw it out of the scale, and drive it far away from the place of good things. But if you are not sharp-sighted, and one balance is not enough for you, bring another. Is it fit to be elated over what is good? Yes. Is it proper then to be elated over present pleasure? See that you do not say that it is proper. But if you do, I shall then not think you are worthy even of the balance. Thus things are tested and weighed when the rules are ready. And to philosophize is this, to examine and confirm the rules, and then to use them when they are known, is the act of a wise and good man. Chapter 12. Of Disputation or Discussion. What things a man must learn in order to be able to apply the art of disputation has been accurately shown by our philosophers, but with respect to the proper use of the things, we are entirely without practice. Only give to any of us, whom you please, an illiterate man to discuss with, and he cannot discover how to deal with the man. But when he has moved the man a little, if he answers beside the purpose, he does not know how to treat him, but he then either abuses or ridicules him, and says, he is an illiterate man. It is not possible to do anything with him. Now a guide, when he has found a man out of the road, leads him into the right way. He does not ridicule or abuse him, and then leave him. Do you also show this illiterate man the truth, and you will see that he follows. But so long as you do not show him the truth, do not ridicule him, but rather feel your own incapacity. How then did Socrates act? He used to compel his adversary in disputation to bear testimony to him, and he wanted no other witness. Therefore he could say, I care not for other witnesses, but I am always satisfied with the evidence of my adversary, and I do not ask the opinion of others, but only the opinion of him who is disputing with me. For he used to make the conclusions drawn from natural notions so plain that every man saw the contradiction and withdrew from it. Does the envious man rejoice? By no means, but he is rather pained. Well, do you think that envy is pain over evils, and what envy is there of evils? Therefore he made his adversary say that envy is pain over good things. Well then, would any man envy those who are nothing to him? By no means. Thus having completed the notion and distinctly fixed it, he would go away without saying to his adversary, define to me envy. And if the adversary had defined envy, he did not say, you have defined it badly, for the terms of the definition do not correspond to the thing defined. These are technical terms, and for this reason disagreeable and hardly intelligible to illiterate men, which terms we cannot lay aside. But that the illiterate man himself, who follows the appearances presented to him, should be able to concede anything or reject it, we can never by the use of these terms move him to do. Accordingly, being conscious of our own inability, we do not attempt the thing, at least such of us as have any caution do not. But the greater part and the rash, when they enter into such disputations, confuse themselves and confuse others, and finally abusing their adversaries and abused by them, they walk away. Now this was the first and chief peculiarity of Socrates, never to be irritated in argument, never to utter anything abusive, anything insulting, but to bear with abusive persons and to put an end to the quarrel. If you would know what great power he had in this way, read the Symposium of Xenophon, and you will see how many quarrels he put an end to. Hence, with good reason in the poets, also this power is most highly praised. Quickly with the skill he settles great disputes. Well then, the matter is not now very safe, and particularly at Rome, for he who attempts to do it must not do it in a corner, you may be sure, but must go to a man of consular rank, if it so happen, or to a rich man, and ask him, Can you tell me, sir, to whose care you have entrusted your horses? I can tell you. Here you entrusted them to a person indifferently, and to one who has no experience of horses. By no means. Well then, can you tell me to whom you entrust your gold, or silver things, or your vestments? I don't entrust even these to anyone indifferently. Well, your own body, have you already considered about entrusting the care of it to any person? Certainly. To a man of experience, I suppose, and one acquainted with the elliptic, or with the healing art, without a doubt. Are these the best things that you have? Or do you also possess something else which is better than all these? What kind of thing do you mean? That I mean which makes use of these things, and tests each of these things, and deliberates. Is it the soul that you mean? You think right, for it is the soul that I mean. In truth, I do think the soul is a much better thing than all the others which I possess. Can you then show us in what way you have taken care of the soul? For it is not likely that you, who are so wise a man and have a reputation in the city, inconsiderately and carelessly allow the most valuable thing that you possess to be neglected and to perish. Certainly not. But have you taken care of the soul yourself, and have you learned from another to do this, or have you discovered the means yourself? Here comes the danger that in the first place he may say, "What is this to you, my good man? Who are you?" Next, if you persist in troubling him, there is a danger that he may raise his hands and give you blows. I was once myself also an admirer of this mode of instruction, until I fell into these dangers. Chapter 13. On anxiety. When I see a man anxious, I say, "What does this man want?" If he did not want something which is not in his power, how could he be anxious? For this reason, a lute player when he is singing by himself has no anxiety, but when he enters the theatre, he is anxious even if he has a good voice and plays well on the lute, for he not only wishes to sing well, but also to obtain applause, but this is not in his power. Accordingly, where he has skill, there he has confidence. Bring any single person who knows nothing of music, and the musician does not care for him. But in the matter where a man knows nothing and has not been practiced, there he is anxious. What matter is this? He knows not what a crowd is, or what the praise of a crowd is. However, he has learned to strike the lowest chord and the highest. But what the praise of the many is, and what power it has in life, he neither knows, nor has he thought about it. Hence he must of necessity tremble and grow pale. I cannot then say that a man is not a lute player when I see him afraid, but I can say something else, and not one thing, but many. And first of all I call him a stranger and say, "This man does not know in what part of the world he is, but though he has been here so long, he is ignorant of the laws of the state and the customs, and what is permitted and what is not, and he has never employed any lawyer to tell him and to explain the laws. But a man does not write a will if he does not know how it ought to be written, or he employs a person who does know, nor does he rashly seal a bond or write a security, but he uses his desire without a lawyer's advice, and aversion and pursuit, and attempt and purpose. How do you mean without a lawyer? He does not know that he wills what is not allowed, and does not will that which is of necessity, and he does not know either what is his own, or what is another man's. But if he did know, he could never be impeded, he would never be hindered, he would not be anxious. How so? Is any man then afraid about things which are not evil? No. Is he afraid about things which are evils, but still so far within his power that they may not happen? Certainly he is not. If then the things which are independent of the will are neither good nor bad, and all things which do depend on the will are within our power, and no man can either take them from us or give them to us if we do not choose, where is room left for anxiety? But we are anxious about our poor body, our little property, about the will of Caesar, but not anxious about things internal. Are we anxious about not forming a false opinion? No, for this is in my power. About not exerting our movements contrary to nature? No, not even about this. When then you see a man pale, as the physician says, judging from the complexion, this man's spleen is disordered, that man's liver. So also say, this man's desire and aversion are disordered. He is not in the right way, he is in a fever. For nothing else changes the color, or causes trembling or chattering of the teeth, or causes a man to sink in his knees and shift from foot to foot. For this reason, when Zeno was going to meet Antigonus, he was not anxious, for Antigonus had no power over any of the things which Zeno admired, and Zeno did not care for those things over which Antigonus had power. But Antigonus was anxious when he was going to meet Zeno, for he wished to please Zeno, but this was a thing external. But Zeno did not want to please Antigonus, for no man who is skilled in any art wishes to please one who has no such skill. Should I try to please you? Why, I suppose, you know the measure by which one man is estimated by another. Have you taken pains to learn what is a good man and what is a bad man, and how a man becomes one or the other? Why, then, are you not good yourself? How, he replies, am I not good? Because no good man laments or groans or weeps. No good man is pale and trembles, or says, how will he receive me? How will he listen to me? A slave, just as it pleases him. Why do you care about what belongs to others? Is it now his fault, if he receives badly what proceeds from you? Certainly. And is it possible that a fault should be one man's, and the evil in another? No. Why then are you anxious about that which belongs to others? Your question is reasonable, but I am anxious how I shall speak to him. Cannot you then speak to him as you choose? But I fear that I may be disconcerted. If you are going to write the name of Dion, are you afraid that you would be disconcerted? By no means. Why, is it not because you have practiced writing the name? Certainly. Well, if you were going to read the name, would you not feel the same? And why? Because every art has a certain strength and confidence in the things which belong to it. Have you then not practiced speaking? And what else did you learn in the school? Syllogisms and sophistical propositions. For what purpose? Was it not for the purpose of discoursing skillfully? And is not discoursing skillfully the same as discoursing seasonably and cautiously and with intelligence, and also without making mistakes and without hindrance, and besides all this with confidence? Yes. When, then, you are mounted on a horse and go into a plain, are you anxious at being matched against a man who is on foot, and anxious in a matter in which you are practiced, and he is not? Yes, but that person has power to kill me. Speak the truth, then, unhappy man, and do not brag, nor claim to be a philosopher, nor refuse to acknowledge your masters. But so long as you present this handle in your body, follow every man who is stronger than yourself. Socrates used to practice speaking, he who talked as he did to the tyrants, to the dicasts, he who talked in his prison. Diogenes had practiced speaking, he who spoke as he did to Alexander, to the pirates, to the person who bought him. These men were confident in the things which they practiced. But do you walk off to your own affairs and never leave them? Go and sit in a corner, and weave syllogisms, and propose them to another. There is not in you the man who can rule a state.